Hello, we are doing an analysis of the CCL pods and filling out the bracket. The premise for this event was as follows here. You were able to bring a 350 point core at a maximum of 16 figures, 250 points, 8 figures in your two draft pools. You would need to, so at the start of every game, there's going to be a dice off. And if you choose to be player A, you may strike one of these draft pools. Player B may then pick one of these draft pools, and player A then picks one of the remaining draft pools. Now, um, this does mean that the ability to strike a pool is much more valuable than the ability to pick first for most builds. We'll talk about this a little bit more later, but what it does mean is that essentially you, especially if you've brought a build that doesn't match your opponent's stuff, they're very unlikely to draft your pools. So they're much more likely to whoever wins that, and you're unlikely to draft something from theirs. So that means that you're much more likely to be in a situation where you win the dice off, and then you choose to make sure that what you end up with is you basically can strike whichever one of your opponent's pots you don't want to face. Because of this, it does mean that winning that dice off is very valuable to you. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. I think there's a lot of people that did some things to kind of play with that, but we'll work on it here. So we have our little bracket here that I have filled up here. So real quick, you'll notice that we starting in the top left, going down, then we'll go over to the top right. You can't really see it right here, but it's this like that. Then we'll go to the bottom left and then to the bottom right. You'll notice that my name is at the far bottom right. When we get to that matchup, I'll kind of talk about my strategy and stuff and my thoughts on what I'm going to do. For most of the rest of these, I'm just going to give a brief overview of the armies themselves, who I think is going to win, mark that in, and then we'll kind of just go from there. So, the very first matchup is Sheep versus 96Z Train. So, Sheep, as you'll see right here, brought Death Chasers of Thess times 5 and Kuzak. Very strong, very powerful build. Real quick, let's take a quick look at the maps. Where the maps are going to be on. Maps are in the, I think so. We've got Arboretum, Cardinal, Lucius Grove, Hammer, Jungle Maze, Solitude are the six maps. Um, I think these are all fairly decent maps for chasers. So, uh, that is also a thing. I'll pull them up real quick so we can take a quick look at those. Um, give me a second here. Should have prepared this a little bit better, but so as you can see, Arboretum here has got a lot of got a lot of road, a lot of trees. That's very good for chasers. The next map that we have on here is Cardinal, and we'll pop that one in here. Uh, Again, nice road. It's a little bit more stretched out, but that road can really let chasers kind of do some stuff here in the middle. There's not really good perches for anyone who wants to shoot from range. So Cardinal's also a pretty good chaser map. Next we have Lucius Grove, which I'll pull that one up here real quick. So Lucius Grove, again, it's a short map. It's got some trees on it. Another solid map for chasers. These are all pretty good. Like so far, we've seen a bunch of good chaser maps. So really, they seem pretty good for chasers. This next map, Hammer, I don't think is as good. Just let me pop it up onto the screen here real quick. As you can see, it's kind of a bit more bumpy. It's got more spaces for people to kind of cut off some zones. it can be a bit tricky depending on how that's set up for the chasers. So that one's not quite as good for chasers as these other bunch. Um, Jungle Maze, though, I think is back to things that are pretty solid for chasers. I'll pop that one up here real quick. Jungle Maze, as you can see, is again, it's got a lot of road, it's got some good trees, it's a short map. Definitely can do some things with chasers on this map. So, the final map, I think, is probably the worst map in the pool for chasers. So, we'll see how that kind of works here. So as you can see, it's got a lot of road, but it's also got these, it's very bumpy. It's got a lot of water zone. So it's not bad. It's not a bad map for chasers. It's not great though compared to the rest because it's definitely got um, a lot more to kind of traverse to get to the spot. So we'll go back here. So let's take a look at this build specifically. Now, if you look, the Knight Primus Adelburn Raylan, this is what Sheep is going to want most of the time. Adelburn is just so good. Raylan is also really good. Just a really good. Then it's also getting struck if he ever loses a dice off. It's 100% getting struck. Hell, the squad of Chasers, Berksa, and Nirak is definitely um solid, but you are dealing with very weak Pacers in this respect. You're just kind of hoping that you just are able to just mow down all of this stuff. So I think that this is a really solid build. It's got a lot of options. If it wins dice offs, it's really hard to beat. So we'll have to see how it goes. 96 Z Train is our other option. Z Train brought 10th Regiment of Foot times 3 and Raylan. Now, 10th are actually really solid um, into the melee units. It is only 12 tenth, which is not a ton considering that you will be outgunned by the chasers essentially. So, but he does have Raylan, and these maps are not bad for tenths. As you can kind of see, this one's actually probably not as good for chasers as I first thought, just because, well, no, the thing is, it's got some solid options for 10. This one's got solid options for 10. Like the thing is, there's definitely spots where, at a minimum, the 10th can do some things. Now, if you look at the where is the 96 C train? I swear I was just looking. Yes. So brought two options in. So we've got Queen of Aladrix with the Honor Guard and Eldgrim. This is mostly there, it seems, to kind of deal with Q9, dragon builds, all that stuff. He's more likely going to want to go with Knight Primus and two squads of Astra. Now, the Astra is probably going to be pretty helpful in the. If he gets a chance to ban, that Astra could be an endgame win con for him. Millburn's really solid. There is an argument. No, no. I was thinking there was an argument to have Sheep draft this pool, but no, most of the time you're gonna stick with his stuff here. Whoever wins this dice off is definitely gonna have a huge edge. If Sheep wins this dice off, able to ban this, force Z Train to go with the Mal build. The Mal could do some damage to Valburn, so it's tricky to say. Um, so maybe does that? I don't know. Either way, I think Sheep might ban this just to get the chance where there's no little burn pop shenanigans. But still, this is honestly not terrible into his builds. If Sheep loses that dice off, that could be rough. That could be rough. He honestly, if he loses the dice off, I could see him taking this Night Primes and sure build, but it does give Maladric stuff. I think the odds of Sheep winning are basically 50-50. I think in most scenarios, I'm gonna say that Sheep pulls this one off. I don't see too many ways for I see ways for Z Train to pull it out, but I do think Z-Train kind of needs to win the dice off and also kind of get a little bit lucky in this. So it's definitely doable, but I think more games than not, Sheep is going to pull this one out. So we'll put Sheep in right there. Gonna center this a little bit. There we go. Okay. Gonna pull. So the next matchup we're going to look at is Moorsbane versus Grey Waves. So let's talk about this one here. Moorsbane brought 5 squads of Stingers and Mavericks. That's really solid. Uh, it's got Fen Hydra and Isamu as another option, which 2 squads of Fen Hydra is just a lot of meat. And then we got Cyprian and Raylan Marku. So both of them are really solid. Grey Waves, on the other hand, brought 4 squads of fourth, Quahan and Rifleman, and another 2 squads of fourth and Pickard. So I think if Grey Waves wins this dice off, you're gonna be shooting to get the fourth mats times 2, and then you just ban. Um, I think you ban this. You ban. You don't want to ban your own pod because then you're forced to play under. Although I guess you could grab Cyprian and Rickland, it would be terrible. I probably ban the Hydra. I just think Hydra can cause more issues. Cyprian could do some annoyances, but Cyprian isn't a major threat. Maybe Morsebane takes Quahan. Like that's kind of one of the risks of these fourth builds. It's not amazing for fourth, but it's not amazing for Stinger. Like the maps are fine. Both of those. I think in most cases though, it's just a lot of fourth and 16 figures to so he is gonna have to drop one of these fourth. And he would even have to drop one from here as well. And then the fourth just usually beat Stingers. So I'm gonna say that pull this back up. In most situations, Great Waves pulls this one out. So that's what we're going for. So we'll do that again. Put down a bit. Yeah. Okay, cool. So now that we have done those 2 things, we're gonna scooch back up a little bit, talk about OG Blaha versus Quazzle. And also, I do apologize to anyone whose username I'm butchering. These are just how I think they should be pronounced, and I'm not going to pretend like I am 100% correct. So we'll start with OG Blaha. Cathar Spearman times 3, Raylan, Deflectron, Marco S1. Bar again, really solid. Honestly, one of the better options into the chaser spam. So I do really like that. And then he brought Great Bow Archers times 3 and a Sama. It's really useful for like I think a Q9, a dragon, that kind of thing. Although hmm, hard to say. That's a lot of it's definitely a lot of beef. I do think it's pretty useless into some of the other matchups, like but Great Bow Archers, it's definitely a good solid piece. I almost included a Great Bow Archers squad in one of my builds. His other option is Major Q9, Frazier, and a Deflectatron. Frazier, I guess, is giving them a boost. I think I would have tried to go for Raymond. I don't know if you can fit Raymond to the cost of Frazier and Deflectatron. But Q9 is a good, solid piece to kind of you force the Cathar to sort of force the person playing against the Cathar to kind of have to come close to you. So so that's that build there. That's a really solid build. The maps, they're not terrible for Cathar. I don't think anyone brought stuff that's bad for these maps. Quazzle brought 4 squads of Greenscales, Raylan, and Eldgrim. And in the other options, brought Quahon and Nilfheim. So I presume Blaha wants these Great Bow Archers. If he gets Q9, it's not great. Um, the big thing is that I think if I'm Quazzle, I prefer to get the Quahon, um, but I don't hate Nilf and Broodrats. Really, the big question here is if Blaha can win the dice off, he gets Great Bow Archers, which do give him some really good options into the dragons. The big problem that he'll probably run into is if he wants to push the Cathar forward, he's going to expose him to whatever dragon things they've got there. And if he's got the archers, then they're also then he's not really going to. Then the green scales can kind of tie them up. These maps aren't very big, so I think in their best matchups, because I think there's also an argument. There's also a very real argument for Blaha to take a dragon, like go Nilfheim and Brute and take that. That is an option. If he does that, I think I like his chances a lot more. I don't know if he'll think to do that. I suspect he'll go with the Great Bow Archer plan, which has some real merit to it. But I don't know if it's enough to pull it off. I think I'm gonna put Quazzle here, just because I think I expect Blaha to probably have a bit more experience on how to play this matchup, and that might really help him out. But I also feel like, well, let's think here. Um, the thing is, it's gonna be really the map is also gonna make a big difference as well. A new map that is gonna be kind of short, I think is gonna give Waha more trouble. I think there's more short maps than long maps. Like, let me just show you what I mean. So, on like Halushia's Grove, like if you have it's gonna be really hard to maximum. Like it's very easy to get a Quahon or Nilfheim up here and just blasting stuff onto this 4 hex. Or on Hammer, you can get like Hammer's actually not that great of an option. But like Jungle Maze, Jungle Maze is so good to get like a dragon here and then just blast. Yeah, and like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So like, if you don't want to move from the start zone, you can always just drop back here to like the 2 spot or something. Like you can make it so it's very annoying for great bows to do stuff. And the thing is, a lot of these smaller maps where there's like options for the great bows to kind of come up, green scales are just so going to get in the way. So I think it's going to be harder for Blaha to leverage the Cathar than it will be for Quazzle, which is annoying for the rest of us because of how good Blaha is into the chaser builds. But I think more often than not, uh, Quazzle pulls this one out. So, wait, hold on. It's a little bit bigger so you can see there. So, and Quazzle in there. And then we will move to Baron Scapius versus Sir Heroescape. So, um, we're gonna analyze this real quick. Okay, so let's start with Scapius. So Scapius brought almost the identical build to Grey Waves. We already talked about that a little bit. We don't really need to rehash it. So Heroescape brought a very similar build to Cheap, but the difference is that this Chasers, Raylan, and Maberxa is a lot more stable compared to, but this one is much worse uh, comparatively. Still, I don't love the Slog Rider times two. I feel like there was other options that you could have done there. Um, honestly, I'd rather Mara Warriors here instead of two Slog Riders. That would have been my call. Mara Warriors here gives you a lot of options. But I think so Scapius honestly probably wants to ban this one if he gets the option, just because it's a lot of chasers to deal with. And uh, I think this is the one that Sir Heroescape would want to ban. I These maps are good for chasers, but it's just so many fourth maps. And if you do get Quahan can do a lot of wrecking stuff before she dies. So I honestly think that while I do think Sir Heroescape has I just I don't like the chasers matchup into fourth all that much. I feel like it's much more likely to cause some issues. So we are gonna say it's a bit bigger so we can see those. Let's say Baron Scapius. So that is my pick for that. I don't actually want that to be pulled down appearance. There we go. Okay. So now we're gonna go to Chris Perkins versus Darkleaf. So Chris has five squads of chasers, Nirak, and a Deflectron. So Chris has decided to not include Kuznak, instead go with Nirak. I do think this is probably a more stable option. It does sort of give him a good it does make him less volatile with these chasers having all base three defense no matter what happens. So he has Adelburn and Raylan. That if he does get this, it is so good for him. This is such a good build. He can't really do any uh kamikaze shenanigans, but it is really solid. And then this one here has two squads, Kuthnak, Muberxa, Marku. You are gonna have to probably drop one of them. You will drop a chaser. So what this? Oh, and you also have to drop a chaser or deflectotron. What's really nice about this, also this deflectotron, don't underestimate that. That could definitely do some damage. I actually like this. I think more than Sheep's or Sahara-scape, just because um its combination is so good. If you get to win the dice off, this is just so hard to. This is just so good. And and if you lose the dice off, I think this is a better option than either of the options for Sheep or Sir Heroescape if they lose the dice off. But, you know, anything could happen. So, and Chris is playing Darkleaf. Now, Darkleaf brought four squads of Stingers and put Raylan in the base pod with Marku and Osamu. So that's really solid there. And the other option, I'm doing two squads of Stingers, Fen Hydra and Bull, 2-9 and Brute Griff. I actually like this a lot more than Borsbane's option here, just because um it's just such a really good combination. You only need the one Fen Hydra. Having six Stingers with Raylan is really good. Q9 and Brute Grut's also really solid. Um, who wins this? Um, it's tough. I think, because here's the thing. I think if Chris wins the dice off, I think he bans Signals, just because I think he has a much easier time dealing with Q9. Well, yeah, I think he has an easier time just forcing Darkleaf to kind of make order marker decisions, because I think of the two, Chris is going to be better at doing order marker decisions compared to Darkleaf. Um, and Darkleaf, his best option is going to be to ban this awful pod, but this also plays really well into him. I think no matter what, Chris has got a better build into Darkleaf. Darkleaf winning this matchup would not surprise me. but I think more times than not, I expect Chris to pull this one out. So we're going to put Chris in. So we're going to scooch now to Flash Gordon and Swarm. So Flash Gordon, as you'll notice, has Vulcan Mechs, two squads of rats, Raylan, and Osamu. Now this is a really interesting build. VMechs can just tank a bunch of things. Rats give them some stuff to kind of block. The builds that go with, yeah, Gray Spears, Arctos, and Frazier. Arctos' Spirit on Incendivorks is so good. 8 range Incendivorks is incredible. Frazier doesn't really do much here besides just give an initiative boost. So it's not terrible, but it doesn't really do too much here. Krug, Tagala, and Bull are interesting pieces, but I don't think they really add much uh, to this perspective. And even if you're like going for like anti-melee or something, there's other options that could have been chosen here. I don't love this. Uh, and the other person is Swarm. Swarm went with Q9, two squads of rats, Raylan as Samu. I This was literally the first thing that I thought of when I saw the point totals, and see about that. It's incredibly good. It's very good at just kind of Q9 and rats is just good in general, and Raylan makes them all better. Now, I think Swarm expected more Q9s and stuff like that, because Queen Mao, very good into it. Heracles, also very good into this stuff. I think in this particular matchup, there's not really good target. Well, Krug is a good target for Queen Mao, but I think most of the time, Swarm's going to want this, which means that's what Flash is going to want to ban, and if you're Swarm, you want to ban this one. Although I could see taking Heracles and Marwars. That is actually the biggest risk that Swarm is running here, is that these things are good into Q9, which means they're also good into him. So I think Q9 is just better than Incendiborgs most of the time, and I think if both parties are going for this stuff, and Queen Mal is actually kind of annoying into Q9 because if you ever get a little honor guard onto Q, you're in trouble. So, I think though Swarm Q-Knight is really good. I like him more than I like the Incendiborg. So we're gonna put Swarm in here. I think Swarm wins this more often than not. I trust Swarm to know how to play this matchup more, and I'm not sure if Flash is gonna um, take the option to pick one of the pick one of Swarm's pods. Now, if if Flash does, I actually like Flash's chances a lot more than I am here. So, then I'm saying here, like I think if Flash tries to pick one of his own pods, I think he's worse off than if he goes for one of Swarm's pods. So we'll see how that plays out. I think that, uh, yeah, if I am But I think Swarm. I think I just like Q9 more than I like Incendiborgs. But you know, if he steals Mal or Heracles and just you know Rex Q9, it's gonna pull it off. I expect Swarm to win this, but again, would not be surprised to see Flash pull this one off. So our next one that we're gonna look at, Pouncing Wolf and Night of Light. This is gonna be quick and short because Night of Light was not able to make this, so he has already forfeited his first round. But we'll talk about the matchup real briefly. Uh, Night of Light, one of the nice things to note is that he brought the exact same um, fourth build as other people, so we already talked about it. Bouncing Wolves brought Knights. Knights of Weston times three. Sir Gilbert Eldrim. Solid bunch. He brought Q9 and another squad of Weston here. And then two squads of fourth and Raylan. That's actually really sneaky. This is really sneaky good. I would expect in more times than not Knight of Light to have pulled this out, just because I just don't think there's enough knights to beat the fourth consistently. Even but this Q9 and Weston could do some stuff, but it's just so many fourth. And if there's a Quahan, it's just yeah, it's just so many fourth. So that's my so obviously Bouncing Wolves is gonna win this no matter what. So I'm gonna mark him. I'm not gonna make it big for this because we all know who's pulling this one out because I might need to make this a little bit smaller. There we go. Make it a bit smaller. Okay. All right. The last of the matchups that we'll talk about is Ryguy versus Dysel. So Ryguy, as we scroll down here, he brought a very similar build to Quas, but instead of a four squad of green scales, he brought Mara Warriors and Mara Warriors and Markuets and Y and Osamu. I like this much better than I like the other option there, just because Mara Warriors can do some shenanigans for you. The fourth squad of green scales isn't that helpful to. I also like Marku and Osamu a lot more than I like Eldrim. So he brought though the two other things, Nilf and Brutes and Quahan and green scales. I so it's basically the same thing as Quassel, which we kind of talked about already, but with I think with a slightly better core. So on my end, Q9, two squads of rats, Raylan, Samo. Like I said, it was the first thing I thought of. Now, the two things that I thought of, I figured I wanted a Brute Guts for the melee stuff, but I figured I kind of didn't want to make a pure melee pod because anti-melee pod just because if it gets banned, I might be in trouble. So I decided to go with Brute Guts and Vulcan Mechs. They're just both really good pieces. Uh, no Rygarn makes it a little bit trickier to time the Brute Gut thing, but there's a lot of things that you can do with Brute Guts. Um, Cyndaborgs can also just do a bunch of damage to things, so it's a pretty tight build there. I also have another one that allows me to be more body, another squad of rats, Laglor and Crop. This one allows me to just absolutely hit anyone from wherever the frick I want on the board. Like I don't think I can hit. I don't think there's many places where I can hit the start zone on turn one. So I have like Laglor here. Let's take a quick look. One, two, three, four. So it can go there, and I can go one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Okay, so I could hit the start zone from here on Arboretum. On Cardinal, so let's put Laglor here. There, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Okay, so I can't hit and start zone from Cardinal. Lucius Grove. Um, so we'll go one, two, three, four. So put you here. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. So I can't hit the start zone from there. I don't think I can. What else forgot to check? One, two, three, four, five, six. Okay, so I could actually get a crop there. And I could get a crop there as well. Cool. So Lucius Grove, I can hit the start zone. Hammer. Let's put this one looks like the farthest forward. So we go here. One, two, three, four, five, six. So yeah, I can definitely hit the start zone on Hammer. Jungle Maze. We'll just say here. Can I get that? One, two, three, four, five. So I wouldn't be able to get there. I could probably get to like here on the first turn. Two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. So I get to here. One, two, three, four, five, six. So Jungle Maze, surprisingly, I can't actually hit the start zone on turn one. Right? I don't think there's anywhere I can do that. One, two, three, four, five, six. Yeah, I think they're all out of the, so surprisingly, despite how small this map looks, I can't actually do it turn one. I could do it probably with Q9. I could probably do it with Q9, but here, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. Yeah, I could do it with the Q9, but not with the crop. Solitude, I also don't think I can, but I'll double check. One, two, three, four, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Yeah, so on about half the maps, I can hit the start zone on the first turn. Solitude, Jungle Maze, and Cardinal can't. But the others, I absolutely could hit the start zone with a Krav on the first turn, which is very valuable in some matchups. Uh, less is so when there is uh, when it's like chasers or something that can kind of get the jump on me and hit me at turn one. So let's talk about my strategy for this matchup. So the big thing is that if I get the ban, I am banning Quahan. Quahan is just so bad for rats. So, whereas Nilf, it's not great to have Nilf into rats, but I can do a lot more things if Nilf has rats. So I think um if I get the ban and he takes and I ban Quahan, he takes Nilfheim. I think it really depends on the map itself, whether or not I take Krav or whether I take these Brutes and Incendiborgs. I think most times I'm going to take this, but Arboretum, definitely take the Krav. Cardinal, definitely. No, I don't think. I think Cardinal might be a situation where I take the Brutes instead of the Vulcan mix, just so that way I think I have because this map is probably one of the worst Q9 maps in the pool, so I think I probably just use it to give myself more options to kind of draw him in. There's an argument. There's an argument either way for this one. Hallucia's Grove, I take the crop. There's just a lot of nice ways to mess with this stuff here, especially if he leads. Well, honestly, I suspect he would lead with Mara Warriors, so I might just take Krav no matter what if I get the opportunity to. Hammer, Hammer, I take the Krav. Uh, so not isn't it not as good for camping, although no, I don't think this is good for. There's an argument to take VMAX and Brood Growths here, but I think Krav are still going to serve me better. Jungle Maze, Jungle Maze, I do think I don't take the Krav here. Just well, there's a lot of ways to gum up with a lot of rats, but I don't think that's as meaningful to Nilfheim. I think it matters more for like a Chasers matchup or something. But I think, yeah, I think I take Brute Guts and VMAX here just because there's ways to get on the road, ways to get to spots. Being able to put Brute Guts in relatively safe spots is helpful. Solitude, I definitely grab the Croft because even though I can't hit the start zone turn one, being able to just do a lot of sniping. I think I think all things equal against Rai, I suspect he would lead Mara Warriors in this matchup. So I would want the Krav if I get a chance to ban Quahan. Now, if he wins the dice off and bans, say the Krav, I'm actually taking his Quahan. I am not facing Quahan. Facing Quahan is a losing game for me. So I'm taking his Quahan if I don't get the chance to ban it. I think that it's the Crawford just so good into his Mara Warriors and Q9, like it's just a lot for Nilheim to get through. Especially with, like 9 range Krav and 10 range Q9. And if he doesn't, then he's got to try and get through Q9 and a dragon. I think in most scenarios I pull that out. Just because no, it's definitely possible. Nilfheim can do Nilfheim things, and Q9 is not invincible. So I just think I win that more games than not. So I'm going to say that I win this one. Also worth noting that if Ryan tries to get around my strategy and bans Quahan, so that way I can't take Quahan, I take Nilfheim and he's kind of left with a bunch of useless green scales. So he can't. It is honestly this is probably the best matchup for me as far as whether or not I care whether I win or I don't care whether I win or lose the dice off. So now we're going to talk about the follow-up matchups. It'll probably go a little bit quicker. So first up, we've got uh, can I just get rid of that? Hold up, there it is. Okay, so sheep and gray wings is the first thing that we have here. So just to recap, sheep has chasers, gray waves has fourth. If sheep wins the dice off here, sorry, if sheep wins the dice off, this is such a, oh, it's not amazing into fourth. And if Grey Waves wins the dice off, he can just, I think Grey Waves wins this more often than not. So, we're gonna pull this back up and put Grey Waves in here. Okay. Next, we've got Quazzle and Scapius. So Quazzle has the dragon build, as we talked about, and Scapius has fourth, right? I believe he has fourth. Yeah. So Scapius has fourth, Quazzle has a dragon. It's just the really annoying thing here is that Scapius can't stop Quazzle from playing Quahan. Although there is an argument that Nilf is better here because there's no Raylan that Quahan needs to get to. But the thing is that Quazzle can basically play a dragon no matter what. And if Quazzle bans Scapius's fourth, that might be sufficient for that might be rough for that might be rough for Scapius to beat. But if Scapius gets a chance to play six fourth, that's going to be tough. I think the scenario, this one feels very polarizing. I think the scenario where Scapius loses the dice off. I think I like Scapius more if he loses the dice off than I do if Quazzle loses the dice off. So we're gonna say Scapius wins this one. So, all right. So next we'll do Chris Perkins and Swarm. So Chris Perkins, again, the chaser build that I actually like the most, and Swarm's got this Q9. It's just both of these are just really bad into chasers. So you need Q9 to do a ton of damage, and you only got two squads of rats, and it really doesn't matter which of these Chris ends up with. He's got a good shot, so I like Chris more into this. So sorry, Swarm, but I think Chris Perkins pulls this one out. So Chris Perkins. So then we'll go to me versus Pouncing. Now, I actually think this is a fine matchup for me. Knights aren't amazing, or aren't bad for me. If I can ban his Q9, it just feels really good. He doesn't really have something like that. I guess, like, no matter what he bans, I have a good matchup into him, so I think I pull this one out. So I'm gonna say I take it. So now, so pulling back out, Grey Waves versus Scapius. This is literally a battle of fourth. This feels like a coin flip. I do think Grey Waves is the better player than Scapius, so we'll give it to Grey Waves. It is literally a coin flip, so. Well, it's literally coin, but anyway, I feel like I expect Gray Waves to win this war, but more likely than not, whoever wins that dice off wins that game. But even because you can just force the other, it's just so good. So then we've got Chris versus me. This one is also very dice off dependent. If Chris can keep me from getting that third squad of rats, it's just it can be very tough for me depending on the map. I think the map and the matchup are going to matter more often than not. Um, Now I could be optimistic about my chances. I think if I get the chance to ban, if I get the chance to win the dice off and I ban, say, yeah, I think I ban Primus and Raylan, and then kind of just force him to have to play. Yeah, I do like those odds much better. If he plays with Adelburn and Raylan, and I have Q9 and say, hmm, honestly, I don't hate. So here's the thing. I don't hate stealing his chasers and Kuznak by Berksa built there. I legitimately don't hate that. Um, Something to think about. Is it better than VMAX and Brewcrest? I think it really depends on the map. On some of these shorter maps, I think it's actually worth it. So in that case, I don't think Chris will see that sneaky play coming. I think the map and matchup really matter a lot. Do I think my best matchup? So my best matchup would be having the three school modes. Yeah, that's just a lot for him to chew through, and I can just make that miserable for him. I I think in more games than not. It's so hard. I literally think this one is a 50-50 shot. I don't want to predict my own victory because that feels arrogant, but so here's the thing. Whoever wins, if I win this matchup, I like my chances a lot better into fourth than I like Chris's. If Chris wins this matchup, I think he loses to Grey Waves. I think if I win this matchup, I beat Grey Waves. I think the scenario where I lose dice off, Chris bans my Croft build. I then take his chasers and Kuthnak, depending on the map, and he takes Adelburn and Raylan. That's tough for me, no matter whether I take Mubex or Durgan. I feel like it's gonna be a rough matchup for whoever loses this dice off. I think it's just a little bit. I'm gonna say Chris wins that, and then Grey Waves pulls it out. Um, just so that way, if I'm wrong, I get to have the satisfaction of probably advancing farther along. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna put Chris in here, and then have Grey Waves win the whole thing because I just really like. I just it's just well actually hold up. Chris has got a better build into the fourth than no, he doesn't have great answers into it. The fourth could just yeah. No, I think Grey Waves pulls that one out more often than not, so alright. So that's my bracket. I'll make it nice and big for everyone to see. So this is my final bracket. I legitimately think about half of these could go the other way, and I do legitimately think whoever wins the dice off, assuming I'm correct about everything else, whoever wins the dice off here, uh, if I win it, I probably beat Grey Waves. If Chris wins it, he probably loses to Grey Waves. So that's gonna be my finals on it. I think we'll see how it ends up playing out. I will be when I do release this video, I will include what the actual result was. So look forward to that. All right, bye.